treat and makes a special announcement live on the show.
We're talking climate change, and of course the upcoming Copenhagen discussion is prevalent. It starts on the 7th of December. My guest this morning, Dr. Benno McNeil from Climate Research Centre, and also Professor Ian Plimer from Adelaide University. In the break, Ben, you said to Ian that the hysteria of this, what he considers a non-event, is putting everybody's children and grandchildren at risk. Do you not think that's a little harsh?
It is, in the sense of, as I said before, the science has been in for 100 years, Kerri-Anne. We can absolutely debate the politics and how we respond to that, but what we have to understand is that we are putting our children's and my children's and your children's future at risk.
Well, Ian, is it better to be safe than sorry?
Well, if the science is so good, why is there a necessity to be dishonest about it? Now, one of the major scientific climate centres of the world had their data pillaged over last week, and it shows that the data's massaged, sceptical editors are hounded out, there's a fudging of the data which people use to scare us witless. There's collusion, there's tax avoidance, there's criminal destruction of data under freedom of information.
A lot of he said, she said going on.
And no, these are all the emails and reports from the University of Exeter. What is that showing us? It's showing that this is the biggest scam that has ever been conducted in science. And I ask the question, do you support fraud or not?
That's
because
outrageous.
if you support that, if you support
we're talking
fraud,
about an issue which has been mulled over for hundreds of years.
I'm sorry, but all of that information is now public. There's 64 megabytes of information out there in public.
In the 1950s, smoking
if we want a policy about what we know, that's fine, but you don't have policy about what you don't know.
Okay, gentlemen,
Science
obviously you have varying views. The other issue I'd like to jump to now, because clearly you guys aren't going to agree or come to common ground. This is the treaty. Have you read this yet?
This is, well, that's the draft platform.
The draft, yes. Have you read this?
I haven't read the whole thing,
Have you read this?
I certainly have.
Okay.
Christopher Monckton gave me a copy a few weeks ago.
Lord Monckton, you know, was scathing about this. One of the issues here, excuse me, when we go to Copenhagen, by 2020, and I'm reading from 33, page 39, paragraph, by 2020, the scale of financial flows to support adaptation in developing countries will cost between $70 and $140 billion a year. I go to another page which then supports this, saying, basically, of Australia, if we sign up as Australia, 0.7% of our GDP, which is $7 billion a year, that's every single year, Australia will have to pay $7 billion a year to developing countries to help them get across the climate change issue.
So what happens? So we've traditionally, as a developed world, we have had a very high polluting economy, and we are causing these global changes that are happening. So,
but should we be paying $7 billion?
I'm trying to get there, Kerri-Anne. So it won't be $7 billion a year, but the South Pacific nations, for example, in our region, they are going to lose their civilization. Sea levels are rising. Ian can say what he wants. He's a podiatrist. But sea levels are rising now. They are going to lose their civilization. Where are those people going to go without climate change adaptation?
Okay, well, when we get... Let's just talk about Copenhagen.
But this is part of it. This is part of the issue.
Who is going to sign up? Do you believe America, President Obama, will sign?
I think China and America are really pushing for this to really reduce emissions. And the reason they're doing this is because it's an enormous economic opportunity for them. The reason is the world's moving to...
But will they sign
because of that, yeah, because they're wanting to move to a low-carbon future, that's where the future export growth and opportunities are. They're going to really say, look, we don't know the exact timetable and the targets they're going to sign up to. They are going to cut carbon emissions rapidly over the coming decades.
Are we signing up when nobody else will? That, I guess, when you... Copenhagen, everybody's going to lob their developing countries. By this, we'll be getting a stack of money, and perhaps for good reason.
Well, we've got the rent seekers in there with their hand out. $7 billion would be better spent in giving third world countries electricity and water. Because in some parts of the world, such as the Maldives, we see since the 70s sea level's gone down 70 centimetres. Carbon dioxide is plant food, it's not a pollutant. What we're setting up is the biggest financial scam that we can ever want, and every one of our viewers here will be paying for it.
Will we be forced to sign up and pay when America, China and India won't.
Yes, and the second thing is that we will be forced to pay fines to an unelected government that will be another tier above us. And if the leader of the opposition, who some gently call the Minister for Goldman Sachs, if he was really aware of what a scientific and financial scam this is, he wouldn't go near it.
Okay, if we need power,
Yep.
where do we get our power from in the next generation?
Couple of decades, we're going to have a very big reliance on natural gas, as well as solar thermal, wind, biomass, geothermal wave. Huge amounts of opportunity there, Kerri-Anne. And
How
at the same
could that
time,
ever catch up in the next several years?
Oh, it's happening as we speak. Wind power in China has just become, China's become the second highest wind power producer in the world. The world's moving, Kerri-Anne, economically. Aside from polar bears and rainforests, we are going to miss this economic opportunity if we don't cut carbon emissions and transition our economy to that low carbon future.
Will
That's what
this
that's my
treaty
argument.
override laws of countries?
Yes, it will. All treaties do. It also overrides whatever government is in power.
It depends on if it's a binding treaty.
If it's binding, it won't?
Well, if it's binding, then it should be binding, because then it will actually, it won't be subject to politics like Ian is demonstrating.
Well, on that
right
note,
now.
given the fact that both of you actually finally agreed on something, if they come to a binding agreement, Australia, and I urge everybody to actually look at what you're about to sign up for, that's one of the most critical things. If it's happening, we have to do something. What it is, obviously, none of us can agree on. But thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you very
Thanks for having me,
Ben, I
Kerri-Anne.
do appreciate all your time. It is it's a pretty complicated issue, but if we're going to sign up, let's look at it. Okay, news on the hour. But next, celebrity chef Curtis Stone. He is about